That's truly when the hackers also feel that they need to cash in on this emotional tide.
Why am I receiving a link about a shipment, a text message, or an email? We really become more susceptible to the brand impersonation type of social engineering attacks. The sale is only available. Act now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third podcast. It's exciting to have you guys back. Let's get started. Hey, Aniket, how are you doing today?
Dr. Byrd, I'm doing good and I'm excited. Welcome everyone to the third episode of our podcast. And today our topic is going to be the rise of attacks during the holiday period. See, holidays are special because people are in the festive mood, they are relaxing, they are with family. The overall mood is quite happy. And that's truly when the hackers also feel that they need to cash in on this emotional tide. What do you think, Dr. Byrd?
I agree with you. You and I are talking all the time around some of the cyber trends that we're seeing.
Yeah.
In October, we have Cybersecurity Awareness Month,
Yes,
right?
right.
And that's a initiative designed to raise awareness around human risk regarding social engineering attacks. And when we talk about, holiday scams, November we have Black Friday and Cyber Monday kind of holidays.
Yep.
And then you shared with me in October in India, there's Diwali.
Yeah.
So there are holidays globally where cyber criminals are taking advantage of us when our risks are down, right?
Absolutely.
Our detectors are down.
And
what that means is that we're more susceptible to clicking links and sharing personal information that we should not, right?
Absolutely.
Of course, we're seeing this stuff all year round, but around the holidays, we really become more susceptible to the brand impersonation type of social engineering attacks.
True. If I receive an email that says 80% off on iPhone, for most of the year, I'm going to spam that email right away. But if it's the holiday season, I might want to zoom in a little bit. It's also possible somebody might be giving this lucrative offer. So people tend to be more trusting during this time. And I think that's truly where a lot of these attacks get more success as opposed to the rest of the year.
Exactly. I get these text messages all of the time talking about you can expect your package delivered on Monday.
Yeah.
Click this link to make any particular changes. Now, what we really have to pause and say is, hey, I didn't order anything. Why am I receiving a link about a shipment, a text message, or an email?
Right.
So you really have to pause and put context around what's happening because, again, cyber criminals are very active. A best practice that we share is that you want to make sure that you use your corporate account, your work email, only for business purposes, right? So I don't share any of my corporate emails for signing up for your streaming services, your FedEx, your UPS, any of those kind of shipping or gaming kind of sites. That's really a no-no.
True.
And that reduces the risk of you getting all of this spam email to your work account, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So a lot of corporations and their policies talk about that. So again, that's the best practice that we share with everybody. You just want to make sure that you use your professional work email for work purposes only. Your computer, your phones, all of those things that have been given to you by your corporations, by your employer, are for work purposes only.
So true. One thing that I like to share, in addition to what you said, is whenever you're making any purchases, have a second view.
Yes.
If you are somebody who was not a very technical person, in that case, maybe just say, honey, can you also take a look at it, please? And maybe your wife can spot a phishing email that you couldn't, or your husband can spot it that you couldn't. And this is where, if we form this chain of trust between us, especially when you're making online purchases, this can keep us secure and build more trust in the online systems as well.
That's a great point, Aniket. You and I discussed in our previous podcast the notion of each one teach one, right?
Yeah.
So people in our communities, our family, we have senior members in our family.
Yeah.
I tell them and ask them to pause and verify,
Right.
Let's talk about it, with my parents, with your dad. We shared the story. I say with my mom, hey, let's pause and let's talk about things, when I come home. And then that way we can confirm that it's not a scam,
Not a scam.
So those are ways in which you can pause, right? Because cyber criminals are using that sense of urgency. Act now. The sale is only available. This item is only available for a limited time offer.
Yeah.
We get those scams all the time.
Yeah.
And, it's just not worth it nowadays, right?
True. Now, I want to switch gears a bit and go more enterprise. We looked at, or we discussed about a lot of these threats about individuals or at more of a consumer level. If you look at it from the organizational perspective as well, a lot of these companies are actually getting attacked more and more during this holiday time. I remember when I used to work for Walmart, at that time, for our holiday sale in November and December, we started with the preparations from August and September were the capacity building, and the entire September, October was about security testing. And it's all about preparing for and anticipating the kind of attacks you would get.
That's perfect. That's a great analogy, great example. When I shared the idea, the principle around not using your personal email, your work email for personal businesses, that immediately, cuts down some of that risk. So when you're at work, if you get an email that says, hey, your shipping package has been delayed, click this link, for modifications. If you pause and say, hey, I don't use my, work email for personal matters, then you can cut that out. That package is not for you. That email is not for you. It's all about detecting, avoiding malicious attacks, right? That's something that we share.
Very true.
And when we think about the emails, cyber criminals are either sending us emails or text messages that contain attachments.
Yep.
Those attachments could be weaponized. The URLs, right? They could be weaponized, right? They'll redirect us and take us to a malicious site.
Right.
Cyber criminals utilize brand impersonation. These are attempts to mimic common brands that we see. Microsoft is one that is commonly mimicked, right? Impersonated by cyber criminals. Any of the threat reporting that you read nowadays talk about, brand impersonation. Cyber criminals are using generative AI to come up with these look-alike websites and content that's very challenging to detect.
Yeah.
But if you pause and think, hey, am I responsible for managing this account? Do I receive these type of emails to my inbox? Pausing and verifying is so important in today's threat landscape.
So true. Okay, so Dr. Byrd, maybe I had sent you an email earlier this morning. And in that email, if you open up the first point, why holidays are a prime target, we see 4 points, which I had mentioned. High volume of online activity. There's more and more shopping going on. I think we covered that naturally. Psychological vulnerability, we covered that one as well. Corporate skeleton crews. I think this is something that we can discuss as well. That why are enterprises more susceptible? Because a lot of IT staff is on leave, and that one person is always overburdened and might overlook something.
Exactly. We always, are concerned about that from a cyber perspective. Is limited resources and things of that nature. One thing I wanted to also remind, some of our new joiners, people are transitioning into cyber careers and things of that nature. When you're transitioning to the professional and corporate environment, you're provided resources and technologies for business purposes only. So we really encourage you not to use streaming services, not to do those type of things while you're at work. So again, those are for multiple purposes, right? That promotes efficiency and proficiency at work and shows, your supervisor, shows your firm
Yeah.
that you're truly engaged and you're mindful of risk and things like that. But it also reduces the attack surface. The more that you're searching online and doing those kind of things, just creates risk for the organization. A lot of organizations use proxy services and web filtering to block a lot of the outbound traffic to commercial sites, right?
True.
To the sports streaming sites, to some of the shopping sites, gambling sites. All of those things are traditionally blocked. And they may ping alerts and things like that to your security team, to your supervisor. So those are things that you really want to avoid for, young professionals starting their careers out.
Yep.
Use your work resources for work purposes only, for their intended purposes. Now, when you're at home, that's something different, but you want to still be mindful of those kind of cyber threats.
So true. I think as they say, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
That's a great point.
If you are compromising that ethical integrity at that point,
Perfect.
The same thing applies everywhere else as well.
Exactly.
Dr. Byrd, that was a great discussion all about consumers, all about the individual users from the homes. Let's now switch our focus to the CISOs in the room, the chief security officers or the CEOs who want to ensure that all of their staff, their company is secure during this holiday season. So what are a few things that they can do to prepare themselves and their organizations to not just survive, but thrive during this holiday season?
Hey, Aniket, you and I talked about the importance of corporate policy. Corporate policies are your rules, your guidelines, your best practices that you want to implement, not only from your leadership perspective, but also the employees, the associates. And part of that process is the assessment process, right? And during that phase, you can do tabletops. You can do tabletops based on some of the ongoing or emerging threats, making sure that you understand what resiliency looks like, understand where some of your challenges are, and where your improvement opportunities may be. So those are, some things that you can work on. Another thing that you can also work on strengthening is your third-party vendor relationships, right? We have this kind of cohesive ecosystem where we are always relying on third-party relationships, software, hardware, and people, right? So understanding what those relationships look like from a security standpoint, whether that be security awareness, whether that be pen testing, whether that be some remediation opportunities. So there's always opportunities to streamline, grow, and evaluate through tabletops, policy evaluation, doing those risk assessments based on things that are happening in the threat landscape. And because our teams are always evolving and changing, that ensures that we're all on the same page and people kind of understand their roles and responsibilities accordingly.
I think while someone does this and they really prepare themselves, they prepare their technologies, they also need to do some testing on their websites, just to launch some dummy attacks, as you said, pen test, and the tabletop exercises as well. Just getting people in the room and saying, hey, our website is down because of a ransomware. Go. Who's going to do what? That really is always interesting. A few more things that one should be thinking of is more monitoring and managing the staffing very well during the holidays. Ensuring that if you have critical resources, it could be your payment server, your website, it could be the password resets of your employees that are happening, that all of that monitoring should be heightened up during the holidays, so that even if somebody tries to steal an account and reset an MFA password, an account or the company can jump onto that quickly and detect somebody hacking into your company. Another really essential thing is a change freeze. And I've seen this in all the major corporations, that they say, okay, whatever changes you have to do, you need to do them before 14th of December. After that, we are going into a change freeze. Now, why is that important is in a change freeze, no changes can be made to any servers, which means Even if a hacker gets into your network and they're trying to change your website, they can't, because everything has been turned into read-only. So that change freeze really becomes a great factor to deter any hackers doing any kind of funky things.
That's a great point, And when we think about, some of the testing and assessments that you mentioned, especially around the help desk kind of activity, people are traveling with friends and family during the holidays, and you want to make sure that your help desk is helpful, right? But understand that you have the kind of controls in place to mitigate the associated risk, right? Make sure multi-factor authentication is engaged, whatever policies and procedures you have to verify and authenticate employees before you reset passwords and credentials and things like that. That's really in place. And then understanding, like you articulated, Aniket, that workflow, right? We have, our change freezes in place. So we are about resiliency at this particular phase. And, you just want to make sure that there's this continuity in case something should arise. So through education, right?
Absolutely.
Security awareness education, not only to your employees, but your IT and security staff as well. Making sure you have those policies and procedures in place for your help desk, your call centers, to make sure that they understand and really feel empowered to push people to authenticate and verify who individuals say they are and claim to be, right? So those are some things you definitely want to keep in mind as well.
Absolutely. And I would also call for a pizza party at the end of everything.
There you go.
People have been working really hard during the holidays. And I have done those shifts as well. When I was with Microsoft back in 2010, I remember on a Christmas evening, I was in office and I was doing the monitoring for NASA, who was one of our premier clients. And but at the end of that, our company had organized a pizza party for all the engineers who spent the time on the holiday. So as a leader and as a CEO or the CISO of the company, they really need to appreciate all the efforts that the security teams put through the entire holiday period to stay on that, to really stay alert, so that vigilance is rewarded and people are feeling better that they were able to secure the company.
That's a great point, Aniket. Hey, my mantra is that you can tell people thank you and tell them how much you appreciate them all year round. We don't have to wait for the holidays. We're focusing on some of the unique themes and threats around the holiday season where you see these things kind of amplified. But you and I know that this is a 365, 24/7 rotation, right? Of work, body of work that we're putting together here. And there are opportunities for fatigue and exhaustion and those type of things. So letting your teams know how much you appreciate them, how much they're valued, how much they contribute to the well-being of the organization is always a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with that, let's wrap the third episode of this holiday-themed podcast. I hope our listeners and our viewers have enjoyed this conversation, and we will look forward to meet you again in the fourth episode as well. Dr. Byrd, any closing notes from you?
Hey, Aniket, thank you again for the wonderful conversation on some of the best practices that individuals and organizations can implement around the holidays. And everyone, I look forward to seeing you again on our fourth episode.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Byrd. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. See you all in the next episode.